Hello and welcome to the Tennis Menu's ATP Finals Daily Show. Val Febo here with you. We've got one familiar face and one face that we have known throughout our daily shows throughout this year, but hasn't been on every day. We've dropped Mark Safoulis for outfit repetition. We'll introduce our guest co-host for the day as well. But remember, next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time is our webinar. You can go on through the social media links that we're posting every day at Tennis Menu on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also on Instagram as well. And we will also drop the link below the show on our social media platforms as well. So click on the link and you'll be able to log into our webinar where myself and Mark Safoulis will chat all things coaching for the hour as well. And you can also, on the tennismenu.com, get the Crunching the Numbers package. This is the latest tennis data trends run by our great friend Shane Liyanage for only $39.90 US on the tennismenu.com. But let's get into the agenda. It was a big night with big players making their play. Novak Djokovic is through to the semifinals again at the ATP Finals. Didn't make it last year, but he is back with a big win over Alexander Zverev. We'll tell you more about that as well. And then we will also dissect what Daniil Medvedev was able to do to go 3-0, the only singles or doubles team to go 3-0 in the group stage. Everybody else had a loss. So big stuff there from the Russian Daniil. He's an absolute superstar. And wouldn't it be good to see him salute in the last year of London when the Russian Nikolai Davydenko saluted in the first year? And remember, the discount code for the annual package will be coming up later on in the show as well for the Tennis Menu. But let's introduce the panel today. The familiar face that's been on every day, Joel Frucci. How are you, mate?
Yeah, going very well indeed, boys. Excited for the semi-finals, and I'm glad at least one of us is donning the cap and also the white t-shirt.
Yeah, I thought I had to be the outfit repeater for Mark Safoulis today to keep the trend going. But speaking of Mark, that is not Mark, who well on my Zoom he's above me, but probably on other people's Zoom he's going to be either on one of those sides. But our great friend from data-driven sports analytics, Shane Liyanage, if there is a statistic that he doesn't know, it is not worth knowing. Shane, thank you for joining us today and filling in for Mark. It's a great pleasure to have you on, and we're going to chat a lot about the data of the ATP Finals from last night and the tournament and what's to come as well. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, boys. I was having a bit of a joke with you. I'm not sure about this trading business. I feel like losing Mark for me is not a great trade, but no, happy to be on.
Well, if we're anything like Collingwood's list management, no, we're it's not good. But mate, you're an absolute star, and this is look, it could be a welcome upgrade. Mark might not be welcome back on the show. So this could be a worry. I hope, Mark, hello, if you're watching, don't hate me. But yeah, so let's start at the agenda, and it was I think the one that we need to start with was the Alexander Zverev match against Novak Djokovic last night. And look, it was straight sets, 6-3, 7-6. Only one break of serve, which I think Zverev would be pretty pleased with considering his serve or his service failures throughout this year, I guess. And 12 aces, still 6 double faults, but at 75% on the first serve and won 84% of his first serve points. But when you're up against Novak, the best returner in the history of tennis, even that might not be enough half the time. And he was able to save 3 of the 4 break points, but one of Novak's did eventually get through. Novak himself saving all 3 break points he faced. And Joel, Novak through to the semis.
Yeah, he is through the semis, and it kind of just felt like one of those real Novak matches. I mean, as you said, Val, Alex Zverev hit 12 aces, and he also put down 38 winners, but he still lost in straight sets. And that is really just what Novak Djokovic does to you. But
what about the unforced error count? There would have been a few of those.
Yeah, there were a few of those. There were 19, so there you go. But excited for the semifinals now with Novak Djokovic and Dominic Thiem. That's a really, really tasty matchup, and interested to see what Thiem can do against him. We cast our minds back to the Australian Open final, which feels like forever ago now, but I wonder if Dominic maybe takes some intel out of that and maybe just revisits some of those things that he think he could have done a little bit better and tries to translate those into this match.
Well, he also beat him in this tournament last year in the round robin stage 7-6 in the third, in what was arguably the best match of 2019 in a best of 3 set format anyway. But Shane, the data from the match last night, and where do you think the match was won and lost for Zverev? Was it on the serve, or was there another, or where was it won for Novak? Was it the return game, or was it just the sheer consistency that we have come to know from Novak over the last 15 years?
Yeah, look, probably a bit of everything. And I think Zverev didn't play bad. And if you look at the overall points, I think he won 65 points and Novak won 70. So not a huge differential there. He actually, like, if you look at the percentage of service points won and the percentage of return points won, Zverev actually won both of them and lost the match. It's very rare that happens. He hit 38 winners, as Joel said, and only 19 unforced errors. So that's a pretty good return, yet he lost. And one key area that we look at is under pressure points. And this is where, so the pressure points, Djokovic was winning 61% to Zverev's 39. So that was the difference really. When it mattered, Novak was able to play big. In terms of maybe looking at some of the tactical things that Novak employed on the deuce court, he played very much a length game. So he went deep to the Zverev forehand. So about 50% of the time it was going that way, very deep. So trying to push Zverev back on his forehand side. But on the ad court, he went very much a width game. So went to the Zverev backhand, but was drawing Zverev out wide. So with shorter ball, take him out wide, and then hoping to sort of open him up on the next shot. So tactically, that was how Novak played Zverev, which is a really good strategy that a lot of players would use. Zverev stuck in the middle of the court hitting backhands is not where you want to be. You want Zverev on the move on his backhand side, and you want to be pushing him back on the forehand side. And Djokovic did that when it mattered. And yeah, ultimately he's the one in the semi-final.
And it seems as though Novak is the king at doing that. He might not be the better player on the day sometimes, and he might be under the most amount of pressure, but when it comes to a tiebreak, the guy just does not lose. And we saw the Wimbledon final of 2019, and I'm going to kick myself for bringing it up, but he didn't make one unforced error in those 3 tiebreaks. He played Federer again in the Australian Open semifinals after that Wimbledon match, and the first set was a tiebreaker, didn't make one unforced error. And again, in the tiebreaks when he needs to, when Zverev might be winning in a lot of key facets of this match, he still comes up with the goods. And that's why this guy has been so impressive when he might not be the better player on the day, or it might be that even, but his ability to go to that, well, I guess the Novak zone is unparalleled. And no other player, I think, in history has been able to do it quite like Novak.
Yeah. He's definitely, he has proven that over time, of course. And I guess speaking as well from experienced boys, having, at a much different level, just, Tuesday nights at the back on court 8 at Vivank Tennis Club. But like, if you find yourself in a breaker, the way that you want to be going about things is not necessarily sort of having to go after winners in breakers because there is so much pressure. So I guess the way that Novak does go about it, just the fact that he is able to just soak it up and just make his opponent play that one extra shot and really essentially get them to feel that pressure and put the pressure back on them. That is a really good way to go about to be going about things in a breaker.
Yep. And yeah, I just think the way, and this is what Dominic Thiem needs to be able to do, I think, tonight. And he just needs to be able to stick. And Dominic Thiem's tiebreak record this year, and I did a piece for this on the tennis menu, it's 16-9 this year. For someone that doesn't have the biggest serve, Shane, and for someone that doesn't win as many free points on his serve as a lot of other players do. And for him, who's a purely power and rally-based game and just tries to put 150% into every shot, to have that tiebreak record at nearly 70%, I think you'd be really happy with that. And he's won some pretty key ones this year. 3 against Rafael Nadal in the quarters of the Australian Open this year. 2 against Rafa this year at the ATP Finals. And then that famous 5th set tiebreak at the US Open when neither him or Zverev wanted to win the match.
Yeah, look, he's done a lot of work in the last 2 years on the hard court, and one of the things is using the slice on the return. So previously he'd be trying to smack it full swing on both the forehand and backhand on the return, and he would a lot of balls would go unreturned. But he's starting to use a bit more sort of chipping back into play, a bit more slice, and that's got him into the points in the tie breaks, and then let his power game sort of take control after that. So he's playing exceptionally well. I know off air we were talking about it's the next 4 or 5 years of prime team time. So we could see someone that sort of pushes up in the slam count, and by the end of his career, it's not out of the realms of possibility that he's won 10 or more slams as well.
Yep, exactly right. And we looked since the start of 2018 against the big three. Thiem is in a positive ledger at 10-7. Overall, it's 7-4 for Djokovic and Thiem. We'll get to the preview a bit later on, but I think he's primed to possibly go and rectify that loss that he had in the final to Stefanos Tsitsipas last year and possibly hoist his first ATP Finals crown. But the other match last night, well, it was a well and truly dead rubber. And Daniil Medvedev really kicked the dead carcass of Diego Scwhartzman 6-3, 6-3. He was absolutely dominant. We thought there might be a little bit of a dip like Thiem had with Andrei Rublev, but Daniil was just absolutely primed. And there was a stat this morning that I think it was the Tennis Podcast tweeted, and it was so he's 6 sets so far this tournament: 6-3, 6-4, 6-3, 6-3, 6-3, 6-3. That's just as strong as anything. And I think, Joel, looking at the concentration after winning in Paris-Bercy last week, he must be on cloud 9 right now to be able to go 3-0. He gets another crack against Rafael Nadal after such heartbreak last year. Shane and I were talking about it off air. He was up 5-1 on his serve, had 40-30 match points, and then Nadal ends up winning it. So he's had some heartbreaks against Rafa in the US Open, like we talked about yesterday, but if he's ever going to do it, it's going to be now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. He's in such a good vein of form, Daniil. Obviously, we just heard the stat from you there, Val. But if you factor in Bercy as well, he's won 7 matches in a row now, and in that stretch, he's only lost 2 sets. So, I mean, that is some kind of form to be going in with. And I think that the win against Diego Scwhartzman overnight for Daniil, even though it was a dead rubber, and we talk about these dead rubbers and wanting to go in and win them. And Mark made a really good point about playing the time yesterday. You're still going out and playing that time. So really, if you're going onto the court and playing that dead rubber, you still want to be winning. Of course, we saw Dominic Thiem lose against Andrei Rublev. There really was nothing to play for from Thiem's point of view. Same as Daniil, but I think with him, it was probably more important that he went out against Scwhartzman and got himself that win, as opposed to Thiem's situation with Rublev, because I feel like Daniil is more temperamental than Thiem is. So I think it was really confident for him just to go into the semi-final against Rafa, just on the back of that confidence that he's won those 3 matches in a row.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the one. He's 0-3 against Rafael Nadal. It's and that's the problem. I think he lost in the Canada final last year, 3-love, 5 sets in the US Open, big 3-setter here last year. This is the time for him to do it. But the one thing that worries me, Shane, heading into this match was the second serve points won from Daniil Medvedev. Yes, he was 35 from 40 on first serve points at 88% and served at 74%, which is very high. But Diego Scwhartzman on the second serve won 9 of the 14 points, and Medvedev 5 of 14, winning on his own second serve at 36%. When you're playing against Rafa, that's not an acceptable statistic.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where he's going to be tested. The historical head-to-heads show that as well. That's where Rafa really takes control of it. Both players actually struggle against each other to hold serve, so I think there'll be a bit of a battle in that regard. I think on last night's match, he was incredibly good in all the rally categories as well. 0-4, he beat Diego 16-13, 5-8. He was up 5 and 5-4, 9+. He was up 9-6. So it was comprehensive, really, in all facets. Maybe the second serve points one was probably the one sort of knock on the result. Yep. I'd love to at some point talk to the two of you on this show about the dead rubbers and the round robin format, because there's been a bit of discussion on that. But before we get into it, I want to shout out to Fabrice Zavaro, who's the strategy consultant who's working for Gilles Zavaro for Daniil Medvedev. He came on the start of the US summer last year, and since then, the work that they've done with Medvedev, with Gilles Zavaro as well, is exceptional. He's now very much entrenched in that sort of top echelon of players, and I think he's going to be challenging for slams with the likes of Thiem and Zverev for the next decade as well.
Yep, and we saw. I saw a tweet this morning that it's so fitting that two of the members of the big three are in this semi-final here. And then there is the two men that are most likely to usurp them and take that mantle of the two next big guns in this game are joining them in the semi-finals. And before we do get to the previews, and I do want to chat about that dead rubber statistic as well. But looking at this, top four seeds are through to the semi-finals. Can you guys tell me when the last time that was?
Was it 2018?
No. It was a lot. It was a fair while before that. It wasn't even in London.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
It was in Shanghai, I thought, but again.
Oh, not even Shanghai.
Jeez, okay.
Cool. I'm stumped.
When was the last year that Houston hosted it?
Wow.
4.
All right. I'll give you the year, 2004.
2004.
Yep. And can you tell me who those 4 players were?
Jeez.
I'd have Federer in there,
Yep.
Roddick.
Yep.
Hewitt was he in there?
Hewitt made the final. And then there's one more.
Juan Carlos Ferrero?
No.
Okay. There's 4 at the time.
It wasn't Ljubicic, was it, Val?
No, it wasn't.
Inside joke there, Shane.
Yeah. Joel dropped an F-bomb on our podcast when giving Ljubicic answer. All right, I'll give you the answer. It was Marat Safin, the 2005 Australian Open champion. So
big Marat, yeah.
Those 4 actually made the finals of the Australian Open the next year as well. So 2 months later, they were the final quartet at the Oz Open. And then this is only the second time since 1990 that the top 4 have made the semi-finals at the ATP Finals, and that year it was Edberg, Becker, Lendl, and Agassi. So,
I mean, in that there's an interest. I mean, we're playing at the end of the year, usually on an indoor surface. The weeks during the year, there's 52 weeks on different surfaces. So, I suppose the top 8 might have a strong sort of clay weighting or a grass court pedigree, and then when they're playing on the indoor hard court, sometimes it's not necessarily the best sort of 4 players on the indoor court that are seated that way. So in one sense, it's not overly surprising, but it is a crazy stat that you bring up.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And considering the big 4 were so dominant for such a long time, and I think all 4 of them did share the semi-finals at one point. For the dominance that they had to only get there once, but then you had the likes of Ferrer, Davydenko, Del Potro, Nishikori, Raonic, and Berdych as well, just trying to get themselves through. And even Jack Sock made a semi-final at one point, and I still can't get my head around that. I really can't. But we'll get to the previews tonight. Dominic Thiem, Novak Djokovic, literal heavyweight tennis that we are going to see. The Australian Open final of this year. 2 of the 3 major champions. I am so excited for this match and what it is going to produce, because we are in for, the utmost of popcorn matchups. And Shane, we'll start with you. Some of the data that you think is going to be the key for Djokovic or Thiem to emerge victorious from this encounter.
Yeah, I think for Thiem, there's probably 2 things that he needs to really sort of, one thing he needs to avoid, and that's too much sort of backhand cross battles with Novak Djokovic. So he needs to use the backhand up the line a little bit more. And whenever he's in attack, he needs to go at the Djokovic forehand with his forehand. So I think if he can do that a bit more, he's going to have, I think that's going to be a key for him. For Novak, it's probably flipping that. If he can keep, when he's in attack, if he can keep sort of peppering the Thiem backhand, I think that's going to bode well for him. We know he's got the best 2-hander, probably the best backhand that we've seen in the game, Novak. So I think he's going to feel comfortable in that sort of pattern. The other thing is in terms of, I don't think fatigue's going to be an issue. I'm expecting a really tight three set match. I can't see it going any other way.
Well, if you look at the results, Thiem has always been thereabouts against Novak Djokovic, Joel. And if you see Novak Djokovic this year, Australian Open, 5 sets. Thiem wins a third set tiebreak last year at the ATP Finals. Roland Garros semi-final 2019, 7-5 in the fifth to Thiem. 2019 Madrid semi-finals, Djokovic wins that 7-6, 7-6. 2018 Monte Carlo, Thiem wins in 3. And then you've got the 2017 Roland Garros quarterfinals. Thiem, absolutely. I've never seen anyone apart from Rafa or Roger belt Novak like I saw Thiem do that day, and it was one of the perfect performances. So Thiem knows what he can do against Novak Djokovic. He's proven it before, but can he do it again? And this is the big question. If he does it tonight, I reckon watch out for him at the Australian Open, whenever that is, because we don't know anymore. But watch out for him, because he's going to be there with bells on, just saying, I just want to play these big guys again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we cite a past example like the AO final this year, I think the difference in the end was just moments for Dominic Thiem, and that's what, as we said before, that's what Novak does so well to players. He just makes you play that extra ball. And I distinctly remember in the fifth set there was one point. From memory, it was a drop volley, and Thiem, it was on a knife edge at that point, and Thiem just missed that ball. So I kind of feel like that if he can just make those kind of shots and just get those key points in the bag, I kind of feel like that might tilt things in his favor a little bit. Sounds simplistic, but for me, against guys like a Novak, like a Rafa, but especially Novak because of just the way that he plays, those moments, they're just so important.
They really are. And I remember we watched that match together, and I think if we had bricks in our hands, we would have thrown them straight to the TV that night. It was quite the encounter, and I think is mentally, Shane, do you think there's going to be any thoughts by Thiem about that Australian Open match, or will it, it's so long ago now, Thiem is a different player. That the last time they played, Thiem wasn't a Grand Slam champion, and now he is one. Now he belongs, or he had that sense of belonging to that group. So what does that do for Thiem now in probably his first escapade against one of these big three as a Grand Slam champion?
Yeah, look, I think mentally, I'm sure there's a little bit. He'll think there was an opportunity missed, but I think getting that Grand Slam in the US, there's a bit of pressure off. He's probably had a few weeks to reset. I know that some of the results haven't been his best since then, but he seems switched on again. I think the Australian Open final, I just want to make a point. He came off the back of a really tough match against Zverev. He played a really tough match against Nadal. There was fatigue in that fifth set against Novak. I don't think there's going to be any fatigue tomorrow. So I believe that was one of the things that Novak had his way at the AO. The other point I want to make, Novak did lose earlier in the round robins to Daniil, and this is going to be a completely different matchup. Daniil sort of extends the rallies, is kind of waits for you to attack. Thiem's going to take that attack to Novak, and players have had success like Wawrinka's doing that, and I feel like the attacking game of the Thiem this week has been exceptional. I think the match against Rublev was a bit of a training session for him. He didn't really extend himself, but yeah, he'll be mentally ready, and I'll be physically ready tomorrow. So it'll be a great match.
I think so as well. We'll get to the picks very shortly, but the next match, Medvedev versus Nadal. Now, they've met, as I said, 3 times. Rafa has been victorious in all 3. 2 of them, you can argue, probably could have gone to Daniil Medvedev. And as I said yesterday, if you had converted that break point in early in that 5th set of the US Open final, or late when Nadal was serving for the match, who knows what would have happened. If he had just held his match point from 5-1 up in the 3rd at the ATP Finals last year, he definitely would have been the winner because it was a match point. But this one, Joel, does this now, if Medvedev gets through, does it right some wrongs for him, I guess, in terms of playing Nadal again, finally getting that win on him, and then pushing on and possibly hoisting this title? And is this maybe a coming of age match for Daniil Medvedev, where if he gets through this, the confidence will be sky high leading into next year, even if he does lose this title?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I think potentially it's maybe a bit of a ceiling for him, and regardless of the situation, you know, getting one over Rafa is always a good confidence booster, particularly at a time like this, the year-end finals going into 2021, rounding off what's been a really challenging year for all the players. But look, I think for this event is probably just one piece of the puzzle. In a broader one for him. Shane was talking about it before. The guy has so much potential and obviously has come a long way. I think if he can make the final, if he can win the title, then it's certainly a piece of his puzzle. But there's more to come. I think a really big thing for him will be getting that first slam and then also developing into a real kind of all-court player, because we know he's been a little scratchy, particularly on the clay this year. But coming up against Rafa, Mark has been speaking a lot about it on the show this week. The way for Daniil is really just to kind of get that penetration through the court and really get some depth.
Yep, and that hunger from Rafa to overcome Shane. He's never won this tournament. It's been well and truly focused on this week that this is the one tournament that Nadal hasn't won. Talk us through the data on where you think Daniil, or what you think Daniil needs to target in order to come over Rafa for that first time in his career.
Yeah, look, the data's been interesting for him. So I think he's made his opponents work a lot this week. So I was looking at, comparing how many balls he has to hit when he's holding serve versus when his opponents are holding serve. And when they're conversely getting broken. And Daniil's, usually hitting around 20 balls in service games. And his opponents were hitting 40. So he's just, getting the job done quickly on his serve, and he's making his opponents hit a lot of balls on theirs. And the crazy stat was Novak Djokovic, when he was broken, he was hitting on average 52 balls in those games. So he's going to, again, that's going to have to be something he needs to get Nadal to just extend himself in his service games, and Medvedev to sort of get through his relatively quickly. The return position is an interesting one. So he's actually been on average a meter further back this week than his career on the indoor hard courts. But he's also managed to return more first serves into play than he's ever done on the indoor hard courts. So he's getting nearly 70% of first serve returns back into play, which is a really high level against really high quality opponents. So I think, if he can get more balls back into play on Rafa's first serve and then extend Rafa in his service games, I think that will sort of pay dividends as the match sort of progresses.
And will the speed of these courts be Rafa's undoing? Because we know Djokovic owns Nadal on a hard court. Very similar games between Medvedev and Djokovic. Djokovic is just a little bit better. We know that. But will the speed of the courts hurt? Because on a hard court, Novak owns Rafa. Can Medvedev start to replicate that?
Yeah, I think a little bit. But I also feel it's the best Nadal's played on the indoor hard courts. It's been 3 high quality matches so far. Like the loss against Thiem was one of the best quality matches. So I feel like he's found the groove. It's almost a repeat of last year in the sense that he sort of got better as he went on in London, and then he played incredible indoor hard court in Madrid for the Davis Cup. He's kind of flipped it. He's playing great now. So I think it's a huge opportunity for Nadal. I feel like Medvedev's the matchup that he would prefer. He would have preferred out of that group. Zverev is a tough matchup on the quicker surfaces. Djokovic is a tough matchup. Medvedev's the one where I think he probably feels like he's a chance to get to the final. So, I feel like the surface isn't his best, but it's the best opportunity he's had in a long time.
It really is. Now, the all-important tips, the ones that are going to make us look silly and the ones that are going to make us look smart. I was lucky yesterday. I got both of them right, thank God. After the day before, I got none from 2. Joel, we'll start with you. The winners tonight, Djokovic v Thiem, Nadal v Medvedev.
I'm going to go Thiem and Nadal.
Shane.
Yeah, I agree with Joel. I think Thiem and Nadal.
Yeah, Look, my heart really wants to say Thiem. It does. So I'm gonna go Thiem, and I just think with Rafa has that mental edge over Medvedev, and I think it's gonna be a big obstacle to overcome for Daniil. So I think it might be Thiem and Nadal again, and Nadal might get to the final for the third time at the Tour Finals. Just quickly before we do go, Shane, I want to get your thoughts on the dead rubber situation, and where you think the incentives lie, because we did mention it, so we should go to it very quickly. Is ranking points and prize money not enough motivation for some of the players?
Look, it really should be. I think the ranking points, 200 points is for a round robin win is more than a final of a ATP 250. So I think it is incentive. I did have a think about maybe the approach could be just to add an extra round, in the sense that maybe the top of each group, they go through with a bye to a semi-final, and then the second place plays the third place of the groups. So it kind of, you go into that third rubber with maybe still something to play for. So maybe that's an option. It just extends the week by maybe a match. I don't know. That's the only solution that I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, and I think it's just, I guess, part and parcel of the round robin tournaments that you're going to get this, and maybe teams just saying, look, I'm not going to sacrifice my legs and my body, even for the points and the prize money. I've got, I'm sitting third in the world. I could take it off Rafa, but I can do that next year anyway. I want to win this title. And I think that's probably maybe the mentality that Thiem is looking at. But we best be off, not to waffle people's ears off too much longer. And remember, Daily Show 10 is the discount code that you can put in your Tennis Menu annual subscription. And that is the code that will give you 10% off. So head to the Tennis Menu to get the annual subscription for just $99.90 US, which includes over 600 tennis-specific drills and resources to make you a better tennis coach. Daily Show 10, when you do that, and that is going to give you 10% off to go to $89.90 US. And you can also get the Crunching the Numbers package. That's part of this, is the latest data trends run by our great friend Shane Liyanage for only $39.90 on the tennismenu.com. And that's where we say thank you to our great friend Shane Liyanage for filling in today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mates. And you're a superstar stats man and data analyst. It's so good discussing all of that with you. So thank you for filling in for Mark Sapoulos. And look, I think Mark might be a permanent omission from the side.
Thanks, Scott. I hope not. I think Mark's definitely a valued member of the team. And thanks for being nice to me today.
No problems at all. No, Mark Sapoulos will be back tomorrow to chat all things ATP Finals and review the semi-finals. Joel Frucci, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure again.
Yeah, as always, Val. Have a good Saturday, boys.
You too. And yep, we've got Tennis Menu on social media at the Tennis Menu on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can subscribe to this podcast as well, because it goes up on that format, and our YouTube channel as well. Please do subscribe and comment. We've had some great comments as well. So thank you to everybody that's participated in the conversation. Val Febo, Shane Liyanage, and Joel Frucci joining you to recap the round robin stages of the ATP Finals, semi-final review tomorrow, and the final preview.